Hey, today I'm going to teach you how to stay married forever. Today I'm going to give you 5 ways to get into the right relationship and stay in it. I love you. I respect you. If I have to, I will protect you, and that's regardless of anything about you other than whether or not you personally are a butthole. We all know that couple, don't we? Those people that just don't like each other. It's obvious. They come into a room together and you feel this tension in the air that you can cut with a knife because they just can't stand to be in each other's presence. Yeah, it's no fun, right? So, that's we're going to count down. Number 5, pick the right person. There's something you got to understand about the modern age, folks. It's really hard to find a partner, apparently. It's been a long time since I was in the dating game, and I'm really happy that I never have to engage in it again, because I can't imagine what the youth of the modern age are going through right now. Between the hookup culture, and there's just a lot of broken people out there that are going to have a really, 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 really difficult time establishing solid, fundamental relationships with people because they're so used to breaking up with everybody. I guess number 5 here is, here's something that you got to get out of your head immediately. True love it's work. It's not always easy. Not because you're going to fight, not because you're going to argue. Ideally, you're not going to be doing any of that stuff, or at least a very minimal amount of it. There is work involved in it, and it's not going to be the Disney princess story that everybody's accustomed to, or the Disney prince story that a lot of guys are hoping for. There's work involved. You're going to have to put in some effort. You're going to have to put in some time. You're going to have to get to know someone well enough that you can accommodate what it is that they need from you without them ever having to tell you. It sounds crazy. It's a real thing. I've seen so many young couples in particular have these fairy tale concepts built into their brain that when you're with the right person, they're your soulmate and you'll just know. Sure, I guess there's some reality to that. I knew when I met my wife, within a couple of hours, I was like, man, this is who I want to spend as much time with as she'll let me initially. Yeah, you can call me a simp. That's okay. I simp for my wife a little bit, and I have since I met her. If you're 3 months into a relationship and you're already at each other's throats, you're with the wrong person. If after 3 months, all of that initial physical attraction that brought you together isn't still present, you got a problem. And it's probably a relationship that you need to part ways with and not bother with trying to make it work. 3 months is not a long time. 6 months is not a long time. 5 years isn't necessarily a long time. If you're still trying to figure out whether that's somebody that you want to spend most of your life with at 5 years into a relationship, you're in the wrong relationship, period. So let's talk about picking the right person. There is something to be said about when you find the right person, you just know it's right. It works. It works because it's simple. It works because you just want to be with them and they clearly want to be with you. And if that's not happening, and if that's not happening a few months after that initial infatuation wears off, you're in the wrong relationship. Pick the right relationship. That's how you stay together forever. Let's move on to number 4 in the countdown. Go to bed angry if you have to. This flies in the face of what everybody's been telling you your entire life. If there's something wrong, you got to deal with it right now. No, you don't. No, you don't. You probably shouldn't either. The coolest thing about the relationship that I have personally with my wife is that we know when to give each other the space that we need. And that's more important than probably anything else on this list. When she sees that I'm in a bad mental place, she recognizes that my masculine brain is going, I got to figure this out. I got to think this through. I got to figure it out. What's going on? I'm trying to pull everything apart and come up with a solution. And it's not generally that I'm upset with her in any way. It's just there's something going on in my head that I'm trying to rationalize and trying to sort out. And women, I'm going to tell you right now, if you got a man in your life and you see that he's brooding and it's not his normal state of being, ask him, are you okay? Is there something I can do to help? And if he says, look, I just need some time, what he means is, I just need some time. He's trying to figure it out. It's what we do. It's what men do. in general and on the whole, don't come at me with the weirdness. We need some time to cycle through whatever's going on in our brain, process through it, come up with a solution. And if we can't come up with a solution and we trust you, we'll come to you and we'll say, all right, I've been trying to figure this out. I haven't been able to get to the bottom of it. So I'm going to enlist you to help me with this thing. And men, same thing with the women in your life, but slightly different because men and women are equal, but they're not the same. If the woman in your life is bent out of shape about something, visibly upset about something, ask her, hey, baby, are you okay? I just need a little bit of time. You sure? You want to talk about it? No, I don't want to talk about it right now. Just give me a little bit of time. It'll drive you nuts. That we all have this thing that says, no, we got to address it. Well, addressing it is not necessarily a good thing because it might not even be something that needs to be addressed. It could just be a moment for either one of you. A bad mood brought on by something other than that person 9 times out of 10. And the result is when you hammer on somebody about, well, just tell me what's going on. You got to share things. We're in a relationship. You got to tell me what's going on so I understand you and I got your back and I'm going to support you. But you got to tell me what's going on because it's going to drive me nuts if I don't know what's going on. Stop. Calm down. Here's the reality. When a man says, give me a little bit of time, what he 100% of the time means is, give me a little bit of time. He's trying to figure it out on his own, and then he'll bring you into the equation if he needs to. When a woman says, I need a little bit of time, she also means it, but she should also follow up, right? Are you sure? Is this something you want to talk about? No, I don't want to talk about it right now. Okay, we'll get back to it later then. Love you. You need some space? I'll go in another room or something. If you can learn how to do that without driving yourself crazy because you just gotta know what's going on, I promise you your relationships with everyone will be better for it. But in particular, in a romantic relationship where you're with somebody all day, every day of your life, when that person says, give me some space, give them some space. Because if you don't, there's going to be hell to pay for both of you. So why are you engaging in that? I've had many, many, many examples of this over the years with my wife. And I'll tell you, both of us were married to other people before we met one another. And I think that informs a lot of the common sense that we use for one another. Because both of us came out of relationships where when somebody was feeling a little fiery that day, things had a tendency to get really fiery that day. If you hammered on them, take that however you want to mean it. I was never the one throwing keys at anybody's head, by the way. Give people space. If you need to go to bed angry, whatever's going on right now doesn't need to be addressed right now. Address it tomorrow when cooler heads prevail. There's no reason to fight until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning over something that probably didn't have anything to do with you anyway, and it was probably just a direct result of whatever mood that person was in at the time. It wasn't even you. It was just they were in a mood and they needed some time. Go to bed angry if you have to. Sounds crazy. Try it. Next time your significant other's sitting around brooding, looking crabby, just go, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'll be fine. Just give me a little bit of time. Okay, let me know when you need me. Back off. I'm telling you, it will change your relationship forever. Back off. Relationships are not 50-50. Stop saying that. No relationship is 50-50. There's no such thing. You are not a half a person. Your significant other is not half a person. You are both completely separate, full-on human beings. And therefore, any good relationship is 100-100. Both of you are putting everything that you got into that relationship, into that friendship, into that partnership. That's the part that I think a lot of people forget about. It's a partnership. Not one person should be responsible for everything. It just doesn't work that way. There's no such thing as a 50-50 relationship. It's 100-100, or it just doesn't work, period. That's it. That's all there is to it. I'll tell you what that means in my house, my relationship, my partnership with my wife. She understands her roles, and I understand my roles. My roles are ample. Her roles are ample. It takes 2 people fully committed to a relationship, and in particular parenthood, in order to be successful in a relationship and as parents. I am, number 1, the breadwinner, the protector, the enforcer. It is what it is. I'm good with it. I provide. all of my resources to my family, and I do so gladly. I provide my protection to my family, and I do so gladly. I provide everything that I have to my family because they're more important than anything else in the world. My wife, my children. Any momentary discomfort that I might feel about having to do any of those things, it plays a massive second to the fact that all of my resources go to taking care of the people that I'm responsible for. And I'm the enforcer, because men need to play that role more often than not in a parenting situation. You say what you want about being if you're a single parent, I know it's hard, I know it's difficult, I get it, and I totally understand. But listen to me when I say this. There is nothing more powerful that you can say to any child in this world if they have a good dad than to look at them and say, you know what, I'm going to call your dad. Sorry, Mom, I apologize. Please don't call Dad. Please don't call Dad. And I'll tell you a secret, just to kind of one-off here because this has nothing to do with the rest of the video. But I don't spank my kids. I don't scream at my kids. And when I feel like I need to enforce a rule on one of my kids, I do things that make them hurt other ways. Oh, you didn't do the laundry that you were supposed to do yesterday. Well, then you don't have a computer today. Oh, you didn't do the dishes that you were supposed to do. Well, I forgot to give you the allowance. So in my case, as the enforcer, I don't beat my kids. I don't yell at my kids. I haven't had to spank one of my kids in a very, very long time. I used to. Back in the day, I'd give you a little reminder swat, but I don't even have to do that anymore. I have the coolest kids in the world because I have a permanent, lifelong, meaningful relationship with my wife, and we both give it 100. All right, marriage counselor hat on here, even though I'm not a marriage counselor, and I have no advice that you should follow without talking to a professional. Financial, marriage advice. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just talking about my personal experience with a failed marriage and a really, really good one for the last several decades. So take this for what it's worth. But I know that the most successful relationships that I've seen follow all of these rules that I have, and they do so naturally because that's how healthy relationships work. Keeping it real. It's a very cliche term at this point, but it's an important one. Sometimes my wife will say to me, you look crabby, what's up? Like, just shit at work. I'm fine. Just, And if it's her, if she did something that upsets me, I tell her, hey, earlier you said this thing, and I didn't like that too much. It actually kind of hurt my feelings. And again, 9 times out of 10, she looks at me and says, oh, this is what I meant. I probably shouldn't have said it that way. I'm sorry. And I feel better. I got it off my chest. I kind of helped her to understand next time. I would prefer it if she approached it a little bit better. And again, actually, 9 times out of 10, this is her doing this to me, by the way. It's her saying, hey, I didn't like that thing you did earlier. When you said this, it hurt my feelings. I didn't like that very much. It's usually me saying, oh, I'm sorry, honey. What I really meant was, and I got stressed out because of this other thing, and it wasn't you, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And that's another important thing, right? I might be making an excuse when I say, I had a stressful day. Don't take your stressful day out on your significant other. It's not their fault, right? And when that person looks at you and says, hey, that thing that you did earlier that hurt my feelings, take accountability for it. Own it. You know what? I shouldn't have done that. It was the wrong tone. I was being a dick, and I apologize. I love you. What can I do to make it up to you? Stop being a dick. That would be my wife's response because she's awesome. And I'll tell you, the one time ever, and you may have seen this in another video, but I'll tell it again because you probably haven't watched all my videos because there's a few of them. The one time I've ever yelled at my wife, and I did, I cursed at my wife, and I got really angry, pretty fiery that particular day. I've been putting together a bunk bed in my kids' room, my daughter's room at the time, my now adult children, and They were 4, 5, 6, and 2 at the time, something like that. Young. So I'm putting together this bunk bed, and the directions are confusing, and I'm not that carpenter-minded to begin with, but I was trying to follow the directions, and usually I can do so pretty effectively, but it was just not coming together, and I was having a really hard time with it, and I'd been in there for what should have been a 30-minute project for about 3 hours, and I was frustrated as all hell. And she kind of came into the room, and I'm sitting there amongst all of this garbage around me. Can't find certain screws, and the directions are confusing. And she comes in and she goes, "Hey," and I go, "What?" I'm mad. I'm not mad at her. I'm just mad. And she says, "What's going on?" I'm like, I'm really having a hard time with this. And she says, "Well, maybe it would help if you read the directions." And I go, "Oh, fuck you," right? She got this look of shock and surprise on her face because I don't talk to her that way. I'd never talked to her that way before, and I haven't done so since. But she just looked and she goes, "Oh, okay." And she walked out of the room. This is how I know that this woman is the smartest woman on the planet. At least I think she is. She walked away. She left me to sit in her not responding with the same vitriol that I'd just thrown at her, and I was wrong for it. And then she let me stay there alone in that until it started to sink in for me what had just happened. And as I sat there, I began, anytime you get yourself in a bad mental state, there is a physiological response to it. There's an adrenaline dump. There's a cortisol dump. There are bad things that happen in your body when you get angry like that. And it takes 20 minutes, scientifically speaking. It takes about 20 minutes for your body to process through those stress hormones and that initial adrenaline dump of being angry about something. I think she knows that. So she let me sit in it and let all of those bad hormones start to drift away. And when I realized, oh my God, did I just say that to her? So I got up after I'd kind of come to my senses. When I got out of that bad physiological state that I'd gotten myself into by being an angry asshole, and I went into my bedroom, and she just sat there and she looked up at me like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" She didn't say that, but there was just this look like, "Hi, you were being a jerk earlier." And I said, "I shouldn't have said that to you. I feel terrible. I apologize. There's no excuse for it. I'm sorry." And she goes, "Okay, well, the next time you do that, I'm going to bite you." And then we laughed, and then we had that makeup stuff that people like to have, and all was well. But she kept it real in not responding the way that I would have expected pretty much anybody else on earth to respond when you yell at them like that. Their response generally is to fire it right back at you, and then it become a big thing. And everybody just keeps amplifying and ramping up their shit until everybody's exploding simultaneously, and it's all bad, right? When you're upset, particularly if you're upset with that person, massive word of advice. Wait 20 minutes before you engage in the conversation. Get out of that physiological state that you're in. If you're at a 9 or a 10, give yourself a little bit of time to get out of it. Biggest piece of advice that I can give you when it comes to, I guess, arguing is give yourself and give your partner that 20 minutes to get out of that bad physiological state before you start having a conversation. Know when to walk away. Know when to say 20 minutes, right? Give yourself a safe word, so to speak, right? Umbrella, whatever. As a word that says, "Look, I'm in a bad state. I know I'm going to be irrational right now. I know I'm going to be an asshole right now. So I'm going to take a second." Promise you, if you can learn how to do that, you can come together 20 minutes later and you can say, "Hey, that thing that you just did, it pissed me off. I didn't like that very much. I think I had a bad reaction to it, and that's why I was about to flip out. But I would appreciate it if moving forward, you didn't talk to me like that again." Now, I'll tell you, again, 9 times out of 10, my wife has been the one that said, "Whoa, you need to take a minute." And I've thought, yeah, she's probably got a point. And she's real good at being assertive when she knows that I'm being the bad guy, which doesn't happen very often, by the way. I don't have a tendency to fly off the handle, but when I do, she knows when to go. You better calm down. Better give me a second, because we just don't engage in that. And I'll tell you, in 20 years, that one time I've ever shouted an obscenity at my wife, ever. Have I said, I need to go disappear for a couple hours, and go sit down and play some Tetris, which I'm really good at, by the way. Or I just need to go outside, or I need to get in my really cool Dodge Charger and drive around for a little while. She knows when to go, yeah, you need to go take a minute. And she also knows how to tell me, I need to take a minute because I'm upset right now. Let's talk about this in a little bit. This goes back to the one of the previous points is it's really hard when somebody's telling you, I can't stand to be around you right now because I'm upset about something, to not hammer on it. But I'm telling you, if you can learn to just not do that, it will change your relationship forever. When somebody's sharing what they're feeling with you, pulling back and saying, okay, maybe they got a point here, thinking about it, processing through it, and then saying, okay, well, I understand that what I did there upset you. Here's the thing that you did that upset me, and I'm sorry. And if you do that, more often than not, your counterpart is going to tell you, yeah, I'm sorry too. I think we both got a little out of hand there. That's how adults deal with things. Not how these 23-year-old kids are doing it these days, where it's, you said that you were going to do this, and you said, well, you sound like your mother. Don't do that shit. Talk, communicate, have conversations. Not arguments, conversations. We finally get to number 1, and it's awesome. Stay with me. By the way, subscribe and like my video. You don't need your spouse. Some of you just went, oh no, you can't say that. No, I'm going to say it, because the worst relationships in the world are born out of people who need each other. My wife doesn't need me. She wants me. She likes having me around. She's content in my presence, and vice versa. I love my wife. I want my wife really bad, but I don't need her. She doesn't need me. We are not two halves of a whole. We are two completely unique, completely capable adults. And if worse came to worse, my wife could certainly go find another husband. And I could certainly go find another wife, I guess. But I don't want to. And she doesn't want to go find another husband. But she could. She doesn't need me. She could find somebody to give her some modicum of or something really close to the lifestyle I've been able to provide over the past couple of decades, without question, hands down. That doesn't hurt my feelings. That doesn't upset me. It actually makes me feel good that she chooses to be my wife and not somebody else's wife. And I think it makes her feel good that I choose to be her husband and not someone else's husband. And I know that this flies in the face. It's completely contrary to what everybody says. You should need your significant other. Well, no, we don't need each other. We want each other. We choose one another. It's a really simple concept, and it's a big shift in how you really need to think about the relationships that you're in. Anybody who tells you, I need them, no, you don't. There's that initial infatuation that everybody has in a new relationship where you feel like you just have to have them. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind if I can't be around this person at all times and press as much of my body against them as I possibly can. That fades. That doesn't entirely go away, but that youthful compulsion that you have to constantly be as close to somebody as you can possibly be is not something that ever stands the test of time for anybody. There comes a point when you kind of look at each other and you're very content to be in the same room, watching the same TV, being present with one another. But constantly feel some compulsion to be, right on top of somebody, or literally on top of somebody if you're feeling that way. But that slows down over the course of time. And that's when you know that you're in a good relationship. When you're in a real relationship is when that initial, I have to be inside of you at all times, kind of wears down. And you realize, I really like being around you. It makes me feel good inside. I feel content in your presence. You make me happy. And I don't know if happy is even the word. Content is more important than happy, because happiness is fleeting. It comes and goes. But content can stick around pretty much all the time. Unless there's some chaotic event that kicks you out of it for a little bit of time, and then you can kind of slip back into it. But nobody's happy all the time. That's crazy. But to my original point about number one here, if you're in a good relation, if you're in a real relationship, a good, healthy, meaningful relationship with a significant other, you don't need them. You want them. And they want you back. And you choose to be with each other. It's a choice. It's not something you need. It's something that you choose to do willingly. So every day that you get to spend with this person is voluntary. That's how you know you're in a real relationship. When you voluntarily choose to be each other's one and only. Because you know that your wife could go find another husband, or your husband can go find another wife. And they choose every day to play that role in your life. And you do the same for them. That's what a real relationship looks like. And that's how a true lasting marriage sticks around. Now, my wife will probably tell you, that she's needed me many times over the course of the past couple of decades. And I could probably say the same thing. I could certainly say the same thing. I've needed her to back me up when there's been something crazy happening. She's needed me when she needed to find a doctor who was capable of handling a brain surgery on her behalf, because every doctor locally was saying, we'll try, but would somebody else have filled those shoes had I not been around? Yeah. So she appreciates what I do for her, and I appreciate what she does for me. But we don't need each other to do it. We do it because we choose to. That's a lesson you got to learn early in your relationship. And if you're, a decade into your relationship and you're still in this state where you feel like you need somebody, you might have a problem. Anyway, I guess that's it. I love you. I respect you. If I have to, I will protect you. And that's regardless of anything about you other than whether or not you personally are an asshole. I'm glad you came to my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you don't mind. And if you don't want to do either one of those things, that's cool too. I'm glad that you watched the video. And if you made it all the way through, however many minutes of this was, I applaud you for being able to tolerate my voice for that long. I've been told that I need to sing on my channel, which I've only done once. And it was a really bad recording, but it was pretty good. And I think that's coming up soon. I've got a guitar sitting over here to my left that I might have to pull out one of these days soon and play you one of my original songs. Good to see you, and we'll see you on the next one. Love you.